Hey guys, it's Shara from Woodshop Diaries. I've spent the last 3 years wanting a lathe so bad that I couldn't hardly stand it. I finally decided to spend the money and buy one this fall, but honestly, my shop doesn't have room for another large tool, so I needed a really compact stand on wheels for it so that it would take up as little space as possible and would be easy to move out of the way. So I built this little mobile lathe stand from a single sheet of 3/4 inch plywood and a few 1/4 inch plywood scraps, with just a couple of shelves to store my blanks and a couple of drawers to store my sandpaper and accessories, and a chisel shelf to keep them easily accessible for when I'm turning. I'm sharing the link to the downloadable plans and the step-by-step tutorial below, but I'll show you how it all came together right here in this video. Let's get to it. But first, this video is sponsored by the Home Depot and is part of the Prospective program. To get started, I set up my 3/4 inch sheet of plywood onto my Craig track horses and grabbed my rip cut circular saw and got started cutting it down into more manageable sizes. I first ripped the sheet down into 3 16-inch wide strips so that I could easily move them out of my way and then move them around to get them cut down to the sizes that I needed. I've provided a detailed diagram and cut list in the plans linked below. Once my sheet was ripped down, I trimmed my plywood down to the lengths that I needed on my miter saw and started building the cabinet boxes for the stand. I used my Craig pocket hole jig to drill pocket holes along the edges of the cabinet bottom and used a couple of thinner slats as the top supports. I assembled 2 identical boxes like shown using 1 1/4 inch pocket hole screws. Also note that I added shelves to the middle of these later, and that would have been a ton easier to do at this point than how I did it towards the end of this video. So in the downloadable plans that I've linked below, I added the middle shelf here versus at the end. Once the 2 cabinet boxes were assembled, I moved on to making the top. I cut the top piece to 41 inches long, and then I marked a cutout in the middle and cut it out with my jigsaw. This is optional, but I wanted to add a shelf later for my chisels between the 2 cabinets, and having this cutout allowed me to easily reach down to grab a chisel versus having to step back and reach underneath the top. Once the top was cut, I flipped it upside down onto my workbench and attached the cabinets to it using 1 1/4 inch screws through the top slats. You'll notice here that I'm using a Ryobi drill and driver in this project. It's part of a 4-piece Ryobi combo kit that I reviewed as part of this project. To find out more, be sure to head to the blog post linked in the description below for more details on this project and the products used to build it. Once the body of the stand was assembled, I added some casters to the corners. Although my shop is a decent size, I still struggle to find the room that I need to build large projects. So I make sure to keep every cart in my shop on casters so that I can move them around and out of the way as needed. Once the casters were installed, I cut a piece for the bottom shelf to connect the cabinets. This helps sturdy up the cart, but it also gives me a place to store extra blanks and accessories, etc. I added this using pocket holes and screws and keeping it flush to the back of the cabinets like shown. At this point, I thought it would be a good idea to test fit my new lathe. Perfect fit. I played around on it a while and then finally decided to finish up this stand and build the drawers and get this project knocked out. I cut some dados into the drawer pieces to insert the bottom, and then I drilled pocket holes and assembled using pocket hole screws. I slid the 1/4 inch plywood bottom in place, then attached the fronts. I like clean edges, so I finished my drawer fronts with some edge banding before I attached them to the box. I installed 16-inch drawer slides into the bottom of the cabinets like shown, then realized it would be easier to attach the shelves before installing the drawers, so that's what I did next. I cut 2 shelves to fit inside the cabinet and drilled 3/4-inch pocket holes into the ends of each shelf. Now, things would be easier if I hadn't already put the lathe on top, but hindsight's 20/20, so I marked the shelf locations and attached using 1 1/4-inch pocket hole screws. It was really difficult to get the driver in such a tight spot, so I used this 90-degree driving attachment and made things a little easier. Only it was so low to the ground, it was still hard to see. So I ended up removing the lathe and flipping it over so I could get a better view of what I was doing. Once the shelves were finally in place, I installed the drawers onto the slides and it was almost ready. The last thing I did was add a shelf that would hold my chisels so that they would be easy to grab while I'm turning. I grabbed a piece of plywood and these Bosch Daredevil spade bits and marked 6 evenly spaced holes for my 6 chisels. I used the 1-inch spade bit from this set to drill holes large enough for my chisels to fit down into, but small enough that they wouldn't go all the way through. To check out more details on this powerful spade bit set, be sure to head to the blog post linked in the description. Once the chisel holes were drilled out, I drilled 3/4-inch pocket holes into the ends of that board and placed it in the stand. I put a couple chisels in so that I could adjust the height of the shelf as needed. I wanted the chisels to be high enough where I could comfortably reach them, but also low enough so that they were out of the way when I was turning. Once I got the shelf where I wanted, I screwed it in place with 1 1/4-inch pocket hole screws. I rolled the stand into place and put my chisels into the holes, and now I'm ready for lots and lots and lots of wood turning practice. I'm brand new to wood turning, so I have a lot to learn, but I'm excited to play around with it and see what I come up with. I really like this stand design because the shelves allow me places to store my blanks and the drawers allow me a place to store my sandpaper, accessories, manuals, etc. And the chisel shelf makes it easy to quickly swap between tools while I'm turning. So if you're in need of a lathe stand or a general shop cart, check out the links below to the plans and the details on this one, or check out some of my other mobile shop cart and workbench videos on my channel as well. And while you're at it, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on what's coming next. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, happy building.